this one you're gonna run a 5K.
Sorry, what?
You're gonna run a 5K for today's challenge.
You just said run.
5K.
You understand this body is built for 3 reps or less. I don't do that. That's not in my contract.
This is Ancient Workouts with me, Omar Isuf. In each episode, we examine the culture of one ancient group of warriors and try to apply aspects of their training, nutrition, and mentality into our own exercise routines. How do you stack up against these legendary warriors? Let's find out.
In this episode, we look at the formidable Apache Warriors, hardened champions who excelled in close hand-to-hand combat. Who are the Apache? What did their training look like? And what can we learn from them? Let's find out. First, the name Apache is actually something of a misnomer. It refers to several different tribes that are loosely affiliated, including the Kiowa, Mescalero, Jicarilla, Chiricahua, and Lipan. Apache call themselves actually Ani, which means the people. Most people might be vaguely familiar of the Apache and their guerrilla warfare tactics, but not the proper historical context. The struggle between the US government and the BIA's shared mission to civilize and pacify the Apache and the Apache struggle to maintain their endangered way of life ultimately sparked a decades-long conflict known as the Apache Wars. These battles had intense significance because if the Apache lost, it meant almost certainly losing their lands, culture, and way of life. Let me explain. One of the ways the government and railroad companies undermined the Apache way of life was to encourage white hunters to kill vast bison herds for sport. Buffalo were a crucial part of Apache culture and way of living. The extinction of buffalo herds would essentially destroy the ability for indigenous people to survive. Apache predominantly ate bison and buffalo. In fact, here's a direct quote from a US general. "Kill every buffalo you can. Every buffalo dead is an Indian gone." Before America was colonized in the 16th century, there were around 20 to 30 million buffalo roaming in the wild. Just a few hundred years later, there were less than 100. The white settlers encroaching on native territory had a much larger population, partially due to the decimation of indigenous populations by disease. Within this historical context, it makes far more sense when we learn about Apache guerrilla tactics and what will follow. Growing up under such dire circumstances meant that producing capable warriors was paramount. Young boys would be trained by a male relative, either a father, an uncle, a grandfather, in archery and essentials like wrestling. Increasing athleticism was done in natural ways, such as games to increase agility, doing things like race 10 miles before dawn, swim in frigid water, engage in hand-to-hand combat, and ride horses. An interesting aspect of the culture was an emphasis on running for long duration. This would have a high utility to remain mobile, traversing great distances either in conflict or for hunting. Allegedly, Apache warriors could run for 50 miles, which is longer than a modern marathon. Survival dictates training modalities, and the Apache emphasis on endurance is a natural consequence of their day-to-day living. Considering the harsh circumstances, it's no wonder that training emphasized mastering physical pain to increase grit. Allegedly, things such as young men burning sage on their bodies to practice pain tolerance and self-control. For their diet, this is where buffalo once again features prominently, as hunting was a part of daily life, providing food, shelter, clothing, and much more. In terms of meat consumption, buffalo would be the highest. Bison hides were used as a tool of trade with the Pueblo peoples for pottery, cotton, corn, and other goods. Besides buffalo, the Apache would hunt turkey, deer, bears, rabbits, coyote, beavers, and foxes. It is clear through the accounts of Apache warriors that developing grit via physical hardships was critical. There was a heavy emphasis placed on running, particularly over long distances. Many people want to train to build muscle and strength, but have heard about this thing called the interference effect. That maybe if you do cardio and you also try and lift, somehow it's going to interfere with one another and you won't build muscle. Is this true? Could endurance training hamper your gains, or is it possible to combine both? Fortunately, I got my good friend, Dr. Mike Zordorf, joining us who has done research to talk all about endurance training and lifting. Dr. Mike, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. I think this is a fascinating topic. Now, what you're referring to, Omar, when we think of lifters, and we have to establish their goal first. Lifters want to get, let's say, bigger and stronger and more powerful. Now, if they want to incorporate aerobic exercise, ultimately, then we'll preface this in a moment, but ultimately, a lot of aerobic exercise is going to have what's called the interference effect. And this, using both of these modalities, aerobic exercise and resistance training together, is called concurrent training. Now, this interference effect of aerobic exercise is just as it sounds. Overall, aerobic exercise, when done to a large degree, interferes with the resistance training adaptations. Meaning, if you only lift weights, you're going to get a certain rate of muscle growth, strength increases, and power increases. And let's say you get that growth and that strength and that power and it's at this level. But somebody else, or you start to incorporate into your routine a large amount of aerobic training. You'll still get those increases, but it'll be attenuated. It'll be a little bit less than it otherwise would have been. Now, let's preface this a little bit and say, when we talk about that interference effect, we're talking about large amounts of aerobic training. The interference effect can be minimized. Now, if you go and you do aerobic training a couple times a week for 30 minutes or less, it's probably not going to have a big impact on your strength. Be good for cardiovascular health, burn some calories, stay lean, and so forth, and that's a good adaptation. However, if you're out there and you're trying to train for a marathon and you're running really, really long distances, while you're also trying to get bigger and stronger, you will improve cardiovascular fitness and you will improve strength and muscle growth, but that strength and muscle growth will be attenuated. It will be interfered with, not as good as it otherwise would be. So it depends upon the dosage of aerobic training and how that the interference effect works, about how much aerobic training you do to impact on strength. A lot, and you'll have it. A little bit, your strength should be okay.
As Dr. Mike alluded to, endurance training can fit comfortably into anyone's routine. So I guess I don't have an excuse anymore for not doing cardio and saying I only do 3 reps. Sometimes life could be very unfair. We have a fantastic routine for you today to help mimic some aspects of Apache training, and that would be doing an exercise routine in circuit fashion and then a warrior challenge at the end that will be endurance based. Remember, a lot of their training would be endurance based, so we're trying to mimic that. What we'll do instead for the 3 movements, the squat, the push-up, and the pull-up, we're gonna do them in circuit fashion, one after another, in order to improve our anaerobic and aerobic capacity. The warrior challenge will be a run, but with an Apache twist. You see, to promote that nasal breathing, make it a little bit more difficult and put ourselves in another situation. If you can drink a little water, put a little water in your mouth, and you're gonna hold this as you run. What I will do when I do it, we're gonna put some tape over my mouth just to show that I definitely won't be breathing with my mouth. Beginners, if instead you do wanna do some sort of endurance challenge afterwards, you can work up to 3-mile runs, focusing on a solid pace. This movement we're going to do is the bodyweight squat. We're gonna try and do higher repetitions to mimic the endurance demands of Apache Warriors. So here we're gonna do 20 repetitions, have your feet perhaps slightly wider than shoulder width, squat to comfortable depth, hopefully below parallel, and let's do 20 reps. This movement we'll be doing is an explosive incline push-up. So we're trying to generate maximum force landing softly. Again, with a lot of athletic endeavors, you need power. So land softly, have the elbows slightly tucked, and make sure you explode as high as you can on this incline push-up. Let's get after this. This movement is the pull-up, a fantastic bodyweight exercise that helps simulate climbing, something that Apaches would have needed to do. You want to make sure you use your lats, you select a comfortable position, and you pull all the way up, not using your legs. Modern Warriors, let's do this. And if I don't make it out, because I don't do cardio, Mom, I love you.
And here we are, the 3-mile run with water. Let's do this.
That wasn't so bad. I'm just gonna lie down on this grass.
You don't have to film me. I'm not even hosting the show, really. You know, I'm like just here, so you can go.
The Apache produced formidable warriors that were resilient, tough, and unrelenting. We can hope to incorporate their fortitude and will to win within our own quest for a better self. Thanks for watching. May you achieve all of your goals, and let me know in the comment section below what culture of ancient warriors you'd like to see me explore next. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you here next time on Ancient Warriors with Omar.